Hello, this is Professor Urbis-White. Today we will talk about exponents. We are going to start with the basics of exponents. All right. The first rule. This will take some memorization. I'll just kind of try to explain it to you. A to the m times a to the n. To show that it's times, I may put a dot in there. I may put a multiplication in there. I may put parentheses in there. If I put nothing, it's a multiplication. The formula is a to the m plus n. Let's try to understand how this works. 2 squared is 2 times 2. And 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2. When you multiply all these out, how many are you going to get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 to the, guess what? 2 plus 3 is 5. So you don't have to write all this intermediate step. 2 to the 2 times 2 to the 3 is 2 to the 5th. We're going to leave it in this form. You don't have to multiply them out for now. How about if I'm multiplying variables? What's that mean? Y squared is y times y. Y cubed is y times y times y. How many y's do I have? Y to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that happens to be 3 plus 2. Okay, well, what happens when I mix and match? This is what you do. You go and you kind of group all the ones with the same base. Same base means same number here, not the exponent. So I have a 2 and a 2. How many 2's? 2 plus 3, that's 5. Let's go to the next group. I have x's. Here's an x, here's another x. And I have how many x's in there? X to the 2 plus 4, that's 6. And the last one, I have y's. Here are the y's. And I have y, 3 plus 2, that's 5. Okay? So that is the multiplication property. How about exponent of an exponent? The formula says all you have to do is go and multiply the exponents, m times n, a to the m times n. So let's see how this works. For this one, you should be getting with the formula 2 times 3. Let's see if that makes sense. This means I have 2 to the second power 3 times. Remember, for the multiplication property, I'm supposed to add all these. 2, 4, 6. And guess what? This always ends up being this times that. 2 times 3. So which is 2 to the 6th power. Okay, it doesn't matter if you have x's. It doesn't matter. You're going to multiply these two. X to the 6th power. Okay, what happens if you have more than one thing, like letters and numbers all multiplied? How about you have something like that? 2 to the 3rd times x to the 4th. Both of them to the 2nd power. Now we're going to talk about another property, but you can work this in. And you're going to get 2 to the 2 times 3 is 6 times x to the 2 times 4. This is another property. It is actually an exponent of a multiplication. We'll talk about this later, but I just showed it to you ahead of time so you're kind of prepared. This is the property I'm talking about. When you have the exponent of a multiplication, you can work them in. And that's going to be the multiplication of an exponent is the exponent of a multiplication is the multiplication of the exponent split. It doesn't matter how many exponents you have, how many bases you have. So let's go work this in. This is 2 to the 2nd power times 5 to the 2nd power. So I'm going to leave them like this so that you see the formulas. How about if I have a number and a variable? This is 2 to the 2nd power times x to the 2nd power. So let's do one with numbers and variables and all of them all together. Let's say I have 3 times x times y times z. Doesn't matter? No, it doesn't. Guess what? You can actually split them. The 3, then you have x, then you have y, and you have z. Okay? All right. So remember that formula. The next formula is the quotient. So the exponent of a quotient is the quotient of the exponent split. Okay, so how does that work? Doesn't matter if you have a number or variables. So you work that in. This is the exponent 2 to the second power, 2 to the fifth power, 5 to the second power, I'm sorry. So you can actually open this up if you want. This one is 4 over 25. You can write that. But I'm just showing you these, not calculated, so that you see how the rule works. How about this one? This is going to be 4 over x squared. But how did we get to it? 2 squared and x squared. It doesn't matter if you have 2 or 3 things. Let me do another one here. Let's say you have 3 over x times y. This is putting the rules together a little bit. So I can use the quotient rule, and then I can also use the product rule. Do you see it? So we're going to do more difficult examples in a minute. Let's talk about negative exponents first. Just think of a negative exponent that doesn't belong there. Always think of a fraction and kind of put a 1 in here. And I can always put a 1 under any number if I want to. Negative exponent means it doesn't belong to the numerator. It has to go to the denominator. There we go. Whoop, jump down. If you have it in the denominator, it jumps whoop, up. Okay? So make sure you have that. So what does this mean? 3 to the negative 2 power. That means 1 over 3 squared, which is 1 over 9. Well, what happens if it's in the denominator? That jumps up 3 squared, so this negative became positive, and that's 9. So remember that. There's some be careful kind of situations. I'm not going to go, the proof of 2 to the 0th power is 1. So remember that. Anything to the 0th power, as long as this number is not 0, is always 1. So let's see how this works. There's this weird one that you have to always pay attention to. Know the difference between negative 2 to the 0th power versus negative 2 quantity 0th power. This one is going to give you a negative 1 because of the order of operations. You do this first, and now you put the negative in front of it. This one, the parentheses overwrites that rule. Then you have to take negative 2 quantity and this the whole thing to the 0th power. That's going to give you a positive 1. Kind of memorize those and don't make the mistakes. Also, these guys, when you have an even exponent, it's important. What is 2 to the second power? That's 4, right? So let's look at negative 2 to the second power. Because of the order operations, you do this first, and then you have a negative. And here, the parentheses overwrites that, so that means negative 2 times negative 2. And that's going to give you 4. Okay? So please pay attention to that. Okay, the ultimate example, we are going to use all the rules that we learned, and we're going to do it slowly. All right? You can do this 10 different zillion ways, but I'm going to do it one way, and let's see how you do. So the way that I'm going to do, I'm going to just work this in to everything that I see. You can actually clean it up first if you want, but I'm going to do this. Let's see how that works. But the problem is there's a square in here, so I better work that one out first and then do that. So I'm going to leave the outside exponent alone first and then clean up the inside exponent. So here I have 2 to the negative 3 x squared and y squared. And at the bottom, now I'm going to work this 2 in. 2 to the, you have 2 times 2, that's 4. X to the, you have 2 times 3, that's 6. Now I'm going to, actually what I can do, I can cancel some of these out, but I'm not going to do that right now. Just work these in. Let's do both ways. How about that? I'm going to work this in the way that I showed you here, and then work inside in first. So this is one way. So let's work the 2 in. So when you work the 2 in, 2 to the negative 3 times 2, that's negative 6. 2 times 2, that's 4. 2 times 2, that's 4. Now I'm going to work that in. 2 times 4, that's 8. 2 times 6, that's 12. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to group all the x's and everything. So since this is negative, it can jump down. So to the you have negative 6 becomes positive 6. You already have an 8. Now I'm grouping the x's and y's. Y is by itself, so it stays up there. Okay. In the denominator, I have 12 and 4. I usually move the little one to the big one's side. So I will move x to this becomes negative 4, and this is 12. So let's clean it up one more time. I have a y to the 4th on top. 6 plus 8 is 14. And I have negative 4 and 12, so that is 8. That's one way. Let's do it another way. I can clean the inside out first and then work the squares in. So let's try that. So I'm going to clean up the inside. So this is the inside. I'm going to rewrite this. I'm not going to touch this one first. So I have negative 3. I'm going to move it down. Okay, that gets rid of these two guys. I have x2 and x6. I'm going to move that one down. 6 minus 2, that's 4. And I have a y2 on top. So I cleaned up the inside. That is the second way. Now I'm going to work this square in. Let's move it in. You can get y to the 2 times 2, that's 4. And I'll move that 2 in. Well, let's add this 2 up first. 4 plus 3, that's 7. 7 times 2, that's 14. And then you have 4. Let's make sure that you see that. You have 4 times 2, that's 8. So you can do it more than one way. So just pay attention to what you do, and you'll be okay.